you open it on that? Do you show the clap in the clip?
That it's like the slate.
Yeah, I know.
No, I don't. It doesn't. It gets edited out.
That's a shame. All right.
Welcome to the Karen Mitches podcast.
Hi.
I'm here with Marc Hallworth today.
Hey, sorry. Did I speak too soon?
You can start talking whenever you want.
No. All right. Cool. Yeah, I've been listening to clips of this podcast. It seems a lot of fun, I suppose. The people that you get on it are people from our scene and our community. Seem like, and I like from what I've heard, you always seem to ask questions that make me pause. That I'm like, man, I love being asked a question I've never thought of before.
Nice,
so
nice.
You've done that a couple times with previous guests. I think I watched like the Alex Dewitt episode and the Tia Percy episode, and that's where I'm caught up. How many of these have you done?
This is my 28th or 29th episode.
What do you remember about being 28?
8 years old?
28.
Oh.
What do you remember about being 28 years old? Are you 28 years old now? I have no idea how old you are.
Do you mean the 28th episode?
No, I mean your age now. I just threw out that question out of nothing. I didn't really know if there was like a sequence of
No, not
questioning.
at all.
Yeah, this just seems to be questions randomly like thrown in.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what it was like to be 28.
28 was a while back for me.
Yeah, 20.
I'm 44 now.
Okay.
28 was the year I moved to Vancouver.
Cool. Where from?
From Toronto.
From Toronto, Vancouver. What were you doing there?
So my brother lived out there,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, can I come sleep on your couch so
Yeah.
I can just move to a new city?
That rules, just to get a change of pace.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
I ended up staying out there for 3 years. I loved it out there.
Yeah.
But all my family was back here, so I was kind of spending money and vacation time to come home.
Mm-hmm.
And then my nieces and nephews were being born, so I was like, I
that
should
sucks.
be, unless I could have like relocated my whole family, I needed to come home.
That's kind of annoying shit. All right.
Where are you from, Marc?
I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, so I know what you mean about flying across the country.
Yeah.
But all my friends are out there. I kind of do like visiting Calgary for those sorts of reasons. And like artistically too, you can put together shows that are kind of fun that are like there's like a space out in Calgary that I often do like bizarre shows. I did a tag team thing with our buddy Tara Buchanan, and it was like you have, let's say your 20 minutes is like 11 bits and mine is 15 bits or whatever. We go out and then we get the audience to say how many bits they want to see. So it's like 3, and I'm like, okay, I do 3 bits, and then I tag out and Tara comes in. And basically, we both whittled down our 20 minutes based on like what the audience wants to see, how many bits at a time, and it was fucking dope. It was so
That
fun.
sounds hard.
It was crazy. It's a little bit of counting or math or whatever. Yeah.
While doing improv.
No, it wasn't improv. It was stand up, right?
Oh.
Because I got 15 bits ready.
Oh,
And
so
I
this
just
is
do
like
them-
from so you're using your own, you're not making anything up. It's just your
No,
stand-up.
I have like a 20-minute act, let's say, in my head, and it's 15 bits long. And I just go, okay, 3 bits at a time. What do you want to see this time? 5 bits. Okay, shit, I'll do 5 and okay. And then what's left? I don't know. 7 bits left, everybody. How many do you want me to see? How many do you want to see? And then we go around. And that's those little projects, those little gimmicks are fun to come up with whenever I visit Calgary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have more fun in Calgary.
No. No, man, nothing beats Toronto. Yeah, that's why I moved. Well, another thing, you were born here and grew up here?
I grew up in London, Ontario.
Oh, okay. So when you moved to Toronto, what did it feel like? The big city? Like,
Yeah.
Did you get that feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It was my New York.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
I would have a little panic
does everybody say?
attack just seeing the downtown and yeah.
Right. And it looks cool and there's buildings and stuff. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
how I feel about coming from Calgary too. But
did you grow up in Calgary?
yeah, I grew up in Calgary, but like I kind of had one of these nights not that long ago. Like I was outside of the Social Capital Theater, and there's like it was a rainy day, and just like the look of the buildings. I like Toronto's. Like it doesn't look like Calgary. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
look, there's so much more history, and there's like I don't know. There's an appeal to it that is very from Calgary, very New Yorky, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it's my fiance is talking about because she's from Burlington, which is basically Toronto, kind of like
Yeah.
she doesn't really feel like going to Toronto was like a big
was
city
too
moment.
close
She was
to
like too
it.
close to it. So she like kind of wants to move to a place like New York, but it's like,
oh shit.
and I get it because I already did have that. Like, I know
Yeah.
that feeling of going to like the big city and being
Yeah.
pumped and having it everything I want.
I don't. New York is a lot. I don't know.
It is a lot, yeah. It's just very expensive.
Yeah, the
And
money.
whatever.
And I don't know if I would maybe end up being angry a lot. Like it's.
It
Like
might be because you're spending tons of money. And the transit's shitty. Like, it takes forever to get anywhere. Like,
Yeah, I think like the stress of Toronto is like enough for me, and I think
Right?
if I went
Yeah.
to New York, I'd start breaking down.
yeah. I
But-
can imagine that. Yeah. I don't know. I hate commuting. So it's like I live next to the comedy bar. So it takes me like however long to just walk to this gig.
Oh,
And then let's say I got something from comedy bar to SoCap. That's like 20 minutes on the subway.
yeah.
In New York, like I was doing things where it was like, there's one show in Brooklyn and then the other one out in Manhattan, and then Brooklyn and Queens are right next to each other, but I got to go through Manhattan to get to Queens. It's going to take like an hour and a half, and then you get down to the subway platform and it's like next train in 20 minutes. What is this? I don't know. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
So but that's why when I was in New York, everybody was talking about how they just do shows in their own little
Yeah.
community.
People get okay.
So yeah, but people in Brooklyn being like, I don't know, I never go to Queens. Why the fuck would I ever go to Queens? And I get it. It's like, oh, okay.
How was the doing comedy in New York?
I had it was interesting. It was kind of like so I've been a few times, but I lived there for the summer of 2023. Yeah, and I went back this summer, and what was kind of neat about it is that if you look at a community of like, you got like an open mic scene and then a booked scene and then a pro scene, let's say. What's cool about Toronto is that oftentimes like there's people that kind of fly between the scenes. You see Hannah Veldone like everywhere.
Yeah.
And you see Ben Bayfield all over the place. So, and that's kind of cool because it's like people in the open mic scene that would be kind of struggling. They don't really know what they're doing, perhaps. Then somebody like drops on in and like, kind of gives you an idea of like how
Yeah.
a show should run or whatever. And in my experience in New York, everything was so separate. So it's like the people in the open mic scene were like slowly getting funnier because they are doing comedy, I guess. But nobody's like showing them how to like they're just a bunch of unfunny people.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of stuck in that. And then good luck telling a guy from New York that they're running their show wrong, right? This is fucking New York City, baby. This is when we make the best of the best. It's like, but everyone's terrible. And none of you are like learning. None of you are even aware that this is bad or that it could be better.
My favorite thing with the pro comics is seeing them handle like a difficult audience.
Right.
Like I was on a show with Hannah.
Yeah.
And just everyone was getting like nothing from the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hannah kind of like went out and she was like addressing it and kind of like making fun of the audience a bit, but not like really mean. And everyone started laughing. And then I went on after her. So I was like, thank God.
Yeah, thank you
because the
for
audience
repairing the show.
was there for me. Yeah. But then my friend Ryan drove like me and Hannah to comedy bar after, and she was just like talking about, she's like, they were scared because they're too spread out. If you looked at how they were sitting, it's a big room with a lot of people spread out. And she's like, so they're nervous to laugh. So she's like, you don't want to be too aggressive with an audience. And I was like, this is like crazy.
Yeah.
That's like, it's like having a teacher, right? But
Yeah.
it's just the people in the scene with you.
Yeah, but if you were in New York doing an open mic surrounded by other people that are 2 months in,
Yeah.
nobody would ever know that. You would never learn that. You would just bomb and then go, well, that's how it is. You know what I mean? Yeah. I saw a ton of that. I don't want to generalize and say that that's all of New York or whatever. But another cool thing, though, was that in other scenes, then you start to look at like, when you're in the pro scene in New York, you're like, oh, these people are getting like amazing. These people are like phenomenal and doing 5 shows a night that are all like sold out. And these, you can like improve amazingly, I think, if you were part of that scene.
Yeah.
And you have to follow like Chappelle. Like you're going to learn a lot if you're following Chappelle.
Years before I ever did any comedy, I was just in New York on a trip and we went to Comedy Cellar.
Yeah.
And I was just like so amazed by that. It was the best. And it was nobody. And I think I thought everyone I saw that night was going to be famous because they were so good.
Yeah, everyone's like amazing. But another thing is that place is run really, really well. You know something about the Cellar? They take their fucking phones away. You know how good every show would be in Toronto if we took their phones away from them, the audience? And the audience, in line at the Cellar, everyone's like, oh shit, they take your phone. And then they sit and have a great fucking time. Hey, you don't think that has anything to do with you not being on your goddamn phone, is it, huh? So get off your phone and watch this show. We can have a good time.
I thought about this because I used to go regularly to a mic you hosted on Sundays at gatherings.
Yeah, that one.
And like you did get everyone to participate in it really well.
Well,
it
just
was
to look
mostly
up, yeah.
comedians watching other comedians. But do you have any like advice on like whether it's a open mic or a book show, like if you're just trying to get the right vibe from the audience?
What do you mean, to learn what they want to hear or something? What do you mean?
Like, how do you just get the audience to look up from their phone, to be engaged?
I don't know. I think that answer is like pretty damn specific from comic to comic. Like what you just said about Hannah ripping on the crowd but not making fun of them. I think that sounds like a very Hannah thing to be able to do. Like, I think if it came out of someone else's mouth, like, I don't know, fucking Brovidani. If Brovidani said the things that Hannah said, because he's such a presence, you know what I mean? Like, if he said the things that Hannah said, it might sound like pretty fucking vicious, just because that's how he talks. So Brovo's got to be like extra careful, I guess, just because he looks fucking terrifying, and he knows that. Conversely, there's like things that Brovo can do that just demand kind of attention and authority that other people can't do because they're little dinks compared to whatever, you know what I mean? I can't be like, you guys should listen. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of
Did it take
something.
you a while to sort of like know your vibe and like what you could and couldn't do with it?
Yeah, probably. Like, just to realize that I was happy and nobody else was. I did. It was Chris Robinson or Ryan Horwood or something. They were both on. I think Ryan Horwood produced the show. It was some open mic on a Saturday at a wing place. Oh, 2 feet away from here. What's that wing place over here?
Oh, it's like a little pub.
The Crown and Dragon?
I gotta look at the sign.
Yeah, I think it's Crown and Dragon. Know. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Yeah, it was like considered like Now Magazine's best wings in the city. Anyway, it's the best. You should eat some wings. But Ryan Horwood had a show, and it was like it was deemed as like an open mic or whatever. But everybody on it was like pretty good. It was cool to like rub elbows with Chris Robinson and these guys. But everyone was like, fucking, what are we doing here, eh, guys? It was that kind of vibe or whatever. Like every comedian talked about how like shitty the night was.
Yeah.
And then there was like a crowd of non-comedians that kind of seemingly wanted a good show, and they were all attentive and nice or whatever. And I grabbed the mic and I was like, I'm going to switch gears, everybody. I'm going to be happy to be here. And the place went nuts. I was like, oh, okay. So that's when that was a big like wake up of my vibe of like just being happy to be anywhere.
Yeah.
So, and I enjoyed doing comedy. It's easy for me to be like, this is fun. I want to be here. Also, if I didn't want to be here, why the fuck would I be here? It's like open mic comedy, especially. Like nobody's putting a gun to your head. Nobody needs you to be here. Don't you want to tell jokes? Isn't that the whole point? That's another thing in New York I heard a bunch was, gotta fucking do the reps. Just gotta get those reps in. It's like, what are you learning though, man? Like, what do you mean doing the reps? Couldn't you just do this in the bathroom mirror? You don't care about us, right? You don't want to tell us jokes.
It's the kind of thing like if you don't want to do it on a small level, why do you want to do it on a big level?
Well, I guess like I can understand the energy from a big level feels really good and is different. But I would imagine like telling jokes to nobody and telling jokes to tons of people, you're still telling jokes, so you should kind of enjoy that part. That's like the only thing that's consistent between those two shows is you telling jokes. So you should probably enjoy that and not just want good shows all the time. Or good shows. Any show could be good too. That's the other thing. It's funny what you say about this Hannah show where everybody was spread out. Who fucking ushered this show? This is an idiot. Like, who put the show together? The show didn't have to be bad. We could have ushered people and we would have had a great time. Or whoever's putting the show together, like, but that's another job that you wouldn't really know unless, like, because there's a million things that make a show good, right? So, and that's like one that you wouldn't even necessarily think of when you're a month into comedy.
Yeah.
And then Hannah shows up and is like, why is everybody fucking sitting miles apart from each other? P.S. Can I swear on this? I've been swearing nonstop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, please swear.
Oops, yeah. I've been swearing a lot. Just because I have a button-up shirt doesn't mean I ain't swearing today.
So how did you get into comedy?
I started doing community theater when I was like 12. I watched the series finale of Seinfeld
Yeah.
when I was a little guy. And it was the first time I ever saw bloopers. It was like the first time I kind of understood that it was like, oh, these are just people with jobs.
Oh.
Like, and they like write a show. And I didn't even, they were just people on TV. And I also at the time thought it was like that you had to be born in like New York to be a comedian. There's no way I can be. Growing up in Calgary, especially in the 90s, like nobody would ever encourage you to do something like this.
Yeah.
So, but miraculously, I found this like community theater group that I loved, and got to do. I always got to be like the funny guy in these like huge like Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals, like Oklahoma, and there's, believe it or not, a funny sidekick guy in Hello Dolly. There is like some guy, and I always got to play that guy.
That's amazing.
I never wanted to be like the leading man. I don't give a shit because they're never funny. They're never interesting. Romeo and Juliet. Romeo is a crybaby. Mercutio is cool. Anyways.
Wait. I'm trying to think. Mercutio is...
He's Romeo's like best friend. He gets killed by that Tybalt guy, I think.
Yeah. And Mercutio's the one who gives he gives that speech.
A plague on both your houses.
Yes.
Yeah, and another thing about being funny is that everybody kind of listens to you, like on both sides of even though he was a Capulet or a Montague or whatever. No, he was a Montague. The Capulets kind of like him, like just because he's charming or something. He's funny.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, the funny guys. Yeah, the funny people are the ones that are really bringing us together.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I always wanted to be that. So I was doing community theater and I was having a great time doing it. But then I was living in Calgary, and again, I was like, I guess I'm doing engineering the rest of my life because that's what Calgary, imposes
Oil
on
and
you.
gas.
Yeah, totally. And I was lucky. I was good at like math and science, and so. It's a weird thing to then have to be like, no. I'm going to push back on all this to do this theater thing. I don't know. I'll just roll with the punches, I guess. I really thought I would be happy just doing engineering all day and then community theater at night.
Yeah.
And then I started doing engineering. I started studying it. And I was like, uh-oh, I'm in hell. This is a disaster. I can't do this all day.
Yeah.
So I started looking up theater degrees, like diplomas, I guess. And based on some random advice from someone I never saw again, they were like, Toronto, baby, that's the entertainment capital of Canada. That's where you should study theater. And I was like, okay. And I Googled the Toronto theater, I guess. And it came up, the Humber College theater program, but then in little letters underneath on Google, it's like there's like the blue hyperlink and then the black letters underneath. It said comedy writing and performance. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And then it was like, in Finding Nemo when Dory like remembers everything. It's one of those scenes where it's like, whoosh, 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 whoosh. And it was like all scenes of me being funny on the bus and stuff. I was like, oh my God, it was always comedy. That's all I ever wanted to do was comedy.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, now what do I do? I try, and I was already 3 semesters. I was almost like halfway done my engineering degree. I didn't want to fucking quit that.
The hours you put into that.
Yeah, right. Oh my God. And the classes were hell. And then and they were getting like slightly easier. In engineering, at least at the time, it was like everybody takes like 3 semesters of like general classes, and then you get a specialization like electrical engineering or chemical engineering or something like that.
Yeah.
And my specialization was awesome, and the people in it were wicked and huge supporters of me.
What was your specialization?
It was called geomatics engineering. It's like GPS, like moving satellites and land surveying and stuff. It was all like really map cool. Shit. Sure, whatever.
Geomatics?
Yeah, sure. It was kind of interesting, but I couldn't do it all day, every day. Like I really didn't give a shit at all. And just the idea of a life in a cubicle clicking.
GPS.
But it was already fine. It was doing fine without me. And I didn't think like a guy who cared about that kind of stuff or whatever. Like I have friends obviously still from engineering days, and he like attacks problems like an engineer. Like it's kind of neat, and like seeing this guy. We were just talking before you clicked record about like people that are excited about things or angles or projects or whatever, and he's like designing these, I don't know what the hell he does. It's crazy. Anyways, but that guy thinks like an engineer. So every now and again I met one, but then 90% of them were like, I don't know, man, I'm just fucking here because I had to go to university or something, or I don't know, like for money. Basically everybody was like, I'm here for the money. I think like nobody wanted to be there, which was like mega depressing. That was so hard. Anyways, at that time I found out about Humber, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna finish my engineering degree and then go to Humber College and study comedy, and work for like a year as an engineer to save up money to go to Humber. And then then I was in Calgary, and I was like, well, what's going on comedy wise in Calgary? I never even thought about this. And Loose Moose Theater Company was established in Calgary in 1976, I think it was. And that's where all those did you ever watch Whose Line Is It Anyway, I guess?
Yeah,
all those improv
I
games
loved that.
were invented in Calgary in 1977.
What?
And so I was working with those guys, like, I don't know, number of words, where we do a scene where it's like you can only speak in 4-word sentences or something, and then I can only speak in 2-word sentences, and we do this scene where you're like limited by that or whatever. So that was invented by this guy Dave Duncan, who I got to work with a bunch. He was like he was a genius. And they all worked for a big guy named Keith Johnstone, who wrote all these books about improv, and he's like a savant or whatever. Anyway, and so that was happening in Calgary. I was like, what the fuck? It's like in my backyard. What the hell is this? Okay. Then I got to do stand up, and the stand up scene was kind of neat. There was no sketch comedy scene, which was a bummer, and the Fringe Festival sucks.
It's weird to have
there, so.
the improv going on, but then not to have sketch.
I know.
Because like,
well,
I just
sketch
see
is harder
them
to
as
produce.
Yeah, I guess I just always think they're together. Like that people do both.
Yeah, I don't know. In fact, when sketch kind of picked up in Calgary, it was by the stand-ups. I never really saw any improvisers do sketch in the whole time. That's actually kind of a really neat idea.
You think stand-up is more linked with sketch?
No, I'm with you that improv is closer to sketch, but I think it's kind of neat. Now, I've never really thought about this, that the people that ended up doing sketch in Calgary were stand-ups who all worked together anyways, and I guess they just had that outlet in their head that they wanted to produce. But another thing, no offense to improvisers, is that stand-ups are often pretty good at getting shit going at like in making a show, building something. Like, this is happening Thursday night at 8. In my experience, stand-ups are more likely to be like, we're doing this, and improvisers are like, I don't know, will we? Or like they say that they're gonna do it. I don't know. That might be a generalization.
My gosh. I've never shit talk improvisers before, but
that's not a shit talk. It's just but the whole basis of improv is kind of being flaky. Like the whole point of improv is to be flaky.
It's the only way to get paid to be flaky.
What was I gonna say about? Well, one cool thing about improvisers is that the shows and the environment of it induce it that improvisers are not likely to leave immediately after their set. They're used to being there for an hour and a half. That would be fucking crazy to leave. Why would we ever leave? We have to support our buddies. And it's just us here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, whereas stand-ups are like individualistic shitheads that are like, all right, I'm gone. It's like, what? There's 3 acts left. You can't fucking stick around. That's been going on a lot.
No, but because I've just from doing classes through Second City.
Mm-hmm. Stand-up classes?
I did stand-up classes there, but I did a few other things as well. And like when they have like a stand-up open mic that they do when you're enrolled in any classes.
Okay.
And people who come to that, if you're also doing improv at the time, your improv friends will come to your show. It's so like, I remember thinking this one girl just had like so many friends, but it was just because she was in an improv class. So they're like, why don't we come to your show? Like, you would never see like 8 stand-up people just like show up at their friend's show and it was their idea.
You might if they were all on that show. Yeah.
Yeah, they show up to ask you for stage time.
Yeah, or something. I don't know. When I was working at gatherings, it would be like there was like all randomly 9 extra comedians on the show that all seem to know each other, and they're sitting in the front and smiling and stuff. And I was like, what's going on here? What's the story? And it's like, oh, we all just finished stand-up 101 or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. And then, they all came collectively.
Oh, yeah. Because they're kind of watching it and figuring out what it is before they try it.
And maybe like 2 of them are performing, and then they all cheer for their one buddy or whatever. And it's like, okay. But they do stick around for like an hour and a half of 2 hours of the show, because that is kind of how, maybe not 2 hours, that's a long time, but an hour and a half for sure is like what a show should be. I'm kind of baffled by people that leave within an hour and a half of being in the room. Who was I talking to? I went to a mic recently, and somebody was exhausted. I can't remember. They were like wobbling at the back of the room, and I was like, what's up with you? I can't remember what instigated it, but they went, I've been here for so fucking long. I was like, really? What time did they get here? It was 9:15. They went 8:30. I was like, what are you fucking talking about? Get used to going late. If you want to be like a headliner, guess when a headliner goes on? They go on at the end. You're gonna have to get used to being the last person on a show. You're gonna be in the room for an hour and a half. It's going to be your job.
My pet peeve is people who do crowd work, but they don't watch the show before they go on.
Oh, yeah.
So they come out and they'll go like, they'll ask the same person because everyone has the same instinct. Like, oh, this guy's interesting.
You guys do?
I'm going to ask him. Yeah. The same question the guy before me asked. And I don't know because I wasn't in the room when he was talking.
That's in New York. In my experience, that happened nonstop in New York. And people would put their foot in their mouths all the time of being like, look at this fucking loser. And the crowd were like, we love this guy. I don't know. The host talked to them and it was a great. No,
yeah. We already know Jeremy.
Yeah.
We like him. Like, fuck
that
you.
happened to Annie Lederman. Is that her name? She's like an LA comic, I think. But I was at the stand. I was doing a show at the stand and I just saw her like make fun of these three. She's like, look at these virgins. And we were like, wait, what? We love these guys. They've been like super entertaining sitting in the front row. They've been nice. Like, and then she bombed. Like, it was like, it really like dug a hole. Like, why didn't you watch the show? Like, in Europe, I did some shows in Berlin and Lisbon, and both of those, you know how like before, this is a little insider, guys, when you're a comic and booked on a show, sometimes there'll be like a Instagram thread or whatever where it's like, hey everybody, here's the running order, please get there 5 minutes before, whatever. The ones in Europe are like long and they have rules like shit like that of like, please at least watch what the host does, because if you fucking bully anybody, you suck. If you do repeat crowd work, you suck. Like,
yeah,
they really take it seriously. And the shows there are like amazing because everybody, all the comics are in the back watching, so that's an extra 6 audience members that are laughing and stuff. It's very smart. I like that a lot, but nobody seems to do that here and whatever.
Were you were in Europe this summer?
Yeah, this past summer. Yeah, I was doing shows in Portugal and did I do anything in Spain while I was there? I got engaged in Spain. Anyway, sorry.
Where did you propose?
In Spain, in this town called Chiclana, which is great. My buddy lives out there, so he helped us do it.
That's amazing.
It was awesome.
How long have you guys been together?
3 years and a bit now, yeah.
Is she in the comedy world at all?
No, but I met her through comedy. I met her through, do you know Marlena Kessler?
No.
Okay, Marlena rules. She during the pandemic, Marlena built a comedy venue in her backyard.
Amazing.
Amidst like a lot of like neighborly conflict. Like the neighbors didn't like it.
Oh shit, yeah.
Well, that's not entirely true at all. Actually, every neighbor loved it except for like one that would try to like blast us out with sound and stuff. It was insane. Anyway.
Oh my god.
So Marlena rules, and then I met Pam through Marlena. She would come to these shows.
That's so cool.
Yeah. It was dope. And really kind of saved, first of all, being able to perform in human form again or whatever, because I was doing Zoom shows nonstop. But goddamn, to have a place. I live like 2 feet away from Marlena too, so I was there all the time. People would bail, and Marlena would be like, hey, Marc, can you host this thing? I'd be there in 2 seconds. Like, I was thrilled to get to do it. Then Marlena bought and built a tent, so in the rain we could still perform. And certain open mics where it would get shut down, and then everybody would come to Marlena's backyard. It was always legal though, because remember the time where it was 25 people in a space, in an outdoor space. There was like those kinds of capacities and stuff.
Yeah.
But we had that. We never did anything illegal technically.
Yeah.
But man,
she figured it out for you guys. That's
really
really
worked
cool.
it. Yeah, I did so many shows back there. Ay. But that's how I met her.
Marlena? What's she up to?
Marlena's around. She has a show every second Monday called Dumpster Fire, which is nuts. Yeah, it's very fun.
I hear about this.
Yeah, it's a comedy bar, 9:30 show every second Monday.
Nice.
And it's usually a blast. And I don't know who texts. I know Alex Squire texts it every time, but he might be the guy on Monday every Monday. I don't really know. But he's a great audience member too. I don't know. He's like in the booth, like howling and stuff. Like even if like nobody else is laughing, Alex is like, yeah. He's like having a great time in the booth. So it's great.
How were you during the pandemic?
I got to work fast on Zoom. Yeah, I've tried to figure that out. Have you ever done stand up over Zoom?
No.
Or improv or sketch or any of the mediums?
I was in Toastmasters and we started going onto Zoom.
Okay.
And one of my friends, like I showed them a video I did of my comedy, and then one of the guys in the group would be trying to get me to do like a comedic speech on Zoom, and I was like, no, I'll never do that.
What? Okay.
I'm like, I'm never going to try.
What is Toastmasters? Isn't it where you like cheer people on or something? What is it?
It's where you give speeches.
Yeah, okay.
So usually you meet up in a space together, but during COVID we went online, and then some people moved, so our club stayed online. So a few years after the pandemic, we're still like an online club, and I start doing stand up, and Jin, who loves comedy, is like, do like a comedic speech, because now that you're a comedian, I was like, no, I will
okay.
never,
Why
I
not?
will
Why
never
are
do.
you so against it?
It's the trying to make people laugh on
Yeah.
Zoom. I was like, I won't, because you can't hear people the way you.
There's the difference. Oh wait, the way you hear them in real life is true. Yeah. The big misconception I noticed with Zoom fast was that people would go, well, you fucking can't hear laughs. And I'm like, why wouldn't you be able to hear laughs? That's insane. And because I think nowadays, especially, it got worse, that whenever people have meetings on Zoom, they're inclined to turn off their mics. They're like supposed to turn off their mics and their cameras, which is absolutely not what you do at a Zoom show, at a Zoom comedy show. Everybody turns their mics on. Everybody turns their cameras on.
So I guess maybe you just knew how to run, or you figured out how to run a Zoom show.
It took me like 6 weeks probably at the beginning of pandemic to be like, what needs to happen? And those are really the only things. There's so many other massive advantages in Zoom too. You know their name, right? Everybody can see everybody. Everyone's kind of in the front row at the same time, right? Because on gallery view, you can see everybody. So, I don't know if this is ever, this is a hypothetical, but like in a comedy club, or if somebody in the third row, has a fucking top hat on or something insane, you have to be like, what the fuck's up with this guy? And then everybody has to like turn and figure out who you're talking about or whatever.
Yeah.
But on Zoom, you're like, what's up with Jim? And then everyone's like, Jim. Like there's only one Jim or whatever on the call.
Yeah.
He's wearing a top hat. We all see it. So, which was kind of neat. And then another thing too is that you're doing shows all over the world too. So it's like you do this joke about ketchup chips, and then a guy from Ireland is like, what the fuck is a ketchup chip? I've never even heard of this.
Oh, so you're finding out how
universal your jokes are.
Yeah.
And that helped a ton. And then when I went to Europe and went to US, like New York, and I was doing shows in the southern states and stuff in the Southwest, and it's like, oh yeah, you can't say Jogenfruz. Nobody knows what Jogenfruz is.
They don't have Jogenfruz?
No, that's a Canadian product.
And I'm so proud of it now that I know it's
Isn't it
ours.
great? Yeah. So you've never had.
Never appreciated it, but now it's my favorite.
Mm-hmm. So I was lucky too. Well, first of all, and so many people had this joke, but when the pandemic started and you got CERB, I was living real broke at the time. And CERB, I think Keith Andrews says, thanks for the raise. Basically, like CERB was an absolute raise. Yeah. And my cost of living probably went down in the pandemic because I was just paying rent. I didn't have a transit thing anymore.
Yeah,
I was paying for transit.
I saved so much money.
Right, and then you're giving me way more money that I've ever had, thanks to CERB. And CERB was kind of handy for a guy like me that it was like you could still make $1,000 and continue to make CERB. So it's like, all right, I'll continue making. I wasn't making $1,000, but anything helps. And so I got to, I had a decent time in that respect. So I wasn't worried about finances really. The problem with pandemic is that it kept fucking going.
Yeah.
Had it just been like 5 months, the worst part of the pandemic really was 2 times, I guess, like November 2020 when things got cold again, and then we like really, now I'm like trapped in my basement. I got nothing. And January of 2022 when the Omicron virus fucked everything up. Because I went back on Zoom, but there was way fewer Zoom shows because Toronto was like the only place that really got locked down. And then it's like, oh man, now I'm not working at all. There's no government benefits. You know what I mean? Like now I'm just trapped. But it was only like 3 weeks. Time. But that was hell. But other than that, like I also got to skateboard a bunch. All this crazy free time.
Good in
pandemic?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing else to do. There's literally I just go out.
In that first, because in the March, that first 3 months,
mm-hmm.
I went to the suburbs because I was scared to be downtown. Like I thought, I don't know, I felt people were really insane at the grocery store, and I was like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
But then one of my sisters, so I was at my sister's place in Oakville, but my other sister was still downtown because she lives with her husband,
mm-hmm.
and they loved it. They were just like, it's such a spooky time down here.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I can imagine if you're skateboarding around this city and everyone's gone.
Yeah, there's like nobody around. And then I just like had this street next to my place that I got, I'd practice these tricks, and I filmed 2 skate videos at 33 years old.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was kind of thinking about spots or whatever. Like I'd always kind of walk past this spot and be like, I wonder if I can nollie backside big spin that gap or whatever. Oh well, I guess I'll never do it. And then pandemic started. I was like, all right, I guess I'm gonna see if I can do it.
All your
started
dreams
filming myself skate, which I'd never done before. and then being like, oh wait, I don't really like, frontside half cab as high as I thought I did, sort of. So when you watch it on video, you're like, oh, I can do this better. And so I don't know, I liked it. It's kind of fun. You do that all day, and then you do Zoom shows all night, and then watched Bar Rescue and drank whiskey.
What's Bar Rescue?
That was my pandemic, pretty much. Bar Rescue is a crazy show that I can't believe you don't know. It's an amazing show where it's basically like, what's it called? Kitchen Nightmares or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that, but for bars specifically.
Oh.
And what's cool about, I don't know, what's cool about this show is that they really kind of break down science stuff about like what makes a bar cool. Like what's like layout and flow and all this shit and all these crazy stats about like, so have you ever been to like a bar that had like, there's like a dance floor, but they've made a ball, like a pole, you've made it so that the dance floor can only be accessed by this like one little thing, like the whole thing is dance floor.
Yeah.
Anybody, you should be able to just walk in, but they've actually made like a barrier,
yeah,
so that everybody goes in. That's called a bump bar, and it was invented by John Taffer from Bar Rescue, and it induces like more interactions. And apparently science says that if you have an interaction at a bar, you're like 14% more likely to order a second drink.
Like just from like
because you're having
being
fun.
Like, hey, can I get past
and
you?
you're like, oh, you fucking got a vodka cran? Yeah, me too. Like basically that induces more drink sales.
That's
Isn't that wild? Anyway, so there's shit like that I was like,
yeah.
Bar Rescue's awesome. I love this show.
I actually would like to talk more about the psychology of dance floors because a lot of my years when I partied, I didn't really want to go to a proper dance club, but I liked being at a bar talking to people and then getting a dance floor going. And then there's like a whole art.
Was there no floor? Like you're just making a dance floor in the middle of like a Montana's or something?
Yeah,
like
mean? People dance, or there is like you could dance here, but they didn't like set the night up just for dancing, or also at house parties to get a dance floor going.
Ooh, yeah,
or sometimes there's a dance floor, but people don't start dancing till a certain time at night. So it's like, are people drunk enough right now that if I start dancing, they'll join me, or will I just be
the only person dancing? Yeah. I often do think about that too, actually. And you see it, I don't know, like 15 years ago, my dance club days, you would see people kind of try it too early. And it's like, we're not into this yet. And they'd be kind of embarrassed or whatever. And also you can't really do it alone. Like, especially as a dude. There's like a kind of different science to a dude. One time I was at the Brunny. Do you remember the Brunswick house?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. And there was a guy like patrolling the area, being like ready for somebody else to jump. He knew himself he couldn't get this dance party going. No. But I remember watching that guy go back and forth. I'm like, I can hear that guy's dick screaming, like, let's party. Let's, some chicks get in here.
It's got to be like 2 girls and then like 2 more girls. And
yeah. Then we're like safe. Man, it was funny watching that guy go back. Yeah, you're totally right. There's like a science and a psychology. I hope somebody has studied this because that's cool. And does it work? I don't know what the point of this study is. I don't know what that tells us about humanity and where you could even take this information.
I don't know. It just interests me. Also, whiskey. Is that your drink of choice?
No, I don't know. I would certainly continue drinking this. I love this Crown Royal apple whiskey. It's so sweet. It's ridiculous, like how sugary it is.
Do you drink it on its own?
On rocks, usually. Yeah. Yeah, actually, it's so flavorful that I wouldn't want Coke in it or anything. Yeah, it's so good. And I was drinking a bunch of them. There's literally like an era of time in my head right now that I'm like, oh yeah, the whiskey days. Like, oh whiskey. No. And I was trying not to. I would have it literally in my calendar that it's like, you bought whiskey this day. And then in my head to be like, you can't buy it within 2 weeks of, so I'm like trying to ration this whiskey. I'm drinking it every night watching Bar Rescue. It was kind of it was a sort of a fun era, but it was kind of not a waste of time either, because again, I was working and I was learning and whatever. I still do Zoom shows now. I guess you never did one.
No.
Yeah, they're out there. They're fun. And
I guess who are they for?
People who, well, who's a great recipient of Zoom shows are people that are mobility, like people in wheelchairs and stuff. It's hard. Like you physically can't go to SoCap or the Comedy Bar. So it's like, well, I guess if I'm in a wheelchair, I'll just do a million Zoom shows. You could do that from a wheelchair. And who's Desiree Walsh did thousands of Zoom shows probably. She recorded her album over Zoom.
Oh, fuck off.
Which is sick. Isn't that
That's
great?
amazing.
Yeah. Another thing, yeah, if you like lived in some shit splat town where it's like I can't really get on stage. Like, do you know Ada Nicole? Not that Guelph is a shit splat town, but during the pandemic, there was absolutely clearly nothing going on in Guelph. And Ada was living out there, and she was like, all right, I guess I'll just do Zoom shows. And so you'd see Ada all the time. And well, another cool thing about it, yeah, was that it was like time zone skewed, sort of. There was one mic in Japan that was like, I think 8 p.m. their time, 6 a.m. our time or something. So that was a cool challenge. Can you make people laugh even though you just woke up and you're fucking exhausted?
Could you just wake up at 6 in the morning and do Zoom shows all day?
Well, one time, yeah, it got to that point eventually. Like one time, I was living in this shit ass basement at the time too, and our fucking heat broke, and then it was going to take us two days. December, and so yeah, there was like, oh, the heat guy is coming in 2 days, and I was like, Jesus, landlord, okay, fuck. And then the guy shows up, and he's like, oh, I'm not the heat guy. And my landlord didn't speak English really, so he like misinterpreted what this thing was. He was like, I'm a pipe guy or something, and your water heater is like illegally installed. So I actually also have to cut your hot water. I was like, what? So yeah, this is December. But I was in my little room with space heater blasting nonstop. I'm never turning this thing off. And I was like warm enough in my little room, but I can't even fucking open the door or whatever. And I had a show. It was a Thursday. I remember I work for this company, this charity called laughmore.ca now. It's changed names a bunch, where you go into schools and stuff and teach kids how to do stand up as part of a mental health initiative. And these kids are cool, but we did it over Zoom. Yeah. So I had like a class at I don't know, 10 a.m. or whatever, and then some other thing at 11, and then a corporate Zoom thing at 12:30, and then another Zoom, then like an improv thing. Like I had like 8 Zoom shows throughout the course of the day, and thank God, because I literally can't leave my room right now. It's freezing out there. So I was just there in my pajamas, just drinking eggnog. I was like, all right. And I did probably 11 Zoom shows over the course of the day, because there was that much going on at the time. This is December 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nowadays, you probably can't do that much. That would be impressive to be able to do 10 shows. But, Kelly Zimnikas, she's still rocking Zoom all the time. I think Desiree Walsh probably still is rocking Zoom too. But so they'd be people to ask about those kinds of shows.
Okay.
I did one based out of Queens. That's another thing too, is that the sound is so fucked over Zoom that it's like, like when somebody talks and the little gold square goes around their little screen or whatever. Yeah. You remember Zoom? And same thing happens with a laugh, right? So you tell a joke, and then it's like gold squares all over the place, and then you just sit back and you sit in the laugh for a while, because it takes a long time for like all the sound to just like. And I did this. I was only doing 7 minutes or whatever. I did 2 jokes, and I was like, all right, well, that's that. That's my time, I guess. That's pretty cool. That was an easy whatever money I made at the time. Like, fuck yeah, 2 jokes. Yeah. I'm glad we don't have to live on that specifically now, though. Yeah. You learn a lot. And yeah, out in the world, man, when I started doing live shows again, the feedback that you get from a live crowd, I was like, this is pretty helpful. I was just used to hearing that more.
Do you find the lifestyle in general is easy for you to navigate?
Of being a comic?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Wow, that's a great question. Shit, I don't know.
Like, do you ever think
the answer is yes.
I should have stayed in engineering?
I never think that.
Even just like the kind of like self-employedness of it. Like, does that get to you?
Well, no. What I love about it is the dynamicness of it. That in one day, like the best days or a very good day is like, I had one day once where I play drums too. At the time, I was like getting paid to play drums at a daycare center. So I had a day when it was like, I know it's a long story. We'll come back to that. But I was like, I played a drum gig, and then I went to Etobicoke to work at Humber College, and then I went because there was a Sketchfest. I led some workshop at Sketchfest, and then I went and did a podcast recording, and then I hosted a stand-up show. And I did a sketch show after that, and then I did an improv show. So it was like what a day, man, from pop to pop. I love that kind of shit, to be able to do that much in one day, and it's all different, and it's like different skill sets and stuff that you need to practice and whatever. I love that kind of thing. So it's like and it's all, you know, even if you were just doing stand up, like every stand up show is so fucking different than the last one. So it's like I like the dynamicness of that versus even if I was like a comedy writer, like for a TV show or something, and I had to go in 9 to 5 into one building, it would still be fun because it is comedy writing and stuff, but it would, even that is less enjoyable, I think, to me.
You really like variety.
I kind of like bouncing around, and they're all different skill sets and stuff, and like, can you kill it? I remember that day too. I fucking did a pretty damn good job at each of those jobs. I was like, this rules. I was like patting myself on the back that day. But I'll tell you one thing that's been, it's just been this month, it's just been bad luck, is depending on other people is just difficult because people drop the ball left and right, and it's often not their fault because they're depending on other people that fucking, like, I don't know. In November, I've had like 6 gigs fall through because of just people not getting to their phones on time or whatever the hell, like people not getting back to you, and you're trying to make plans. What you say about the self-employableness?
Yeah.
Trying to make plans and jam your calendar so you can make some money and survive in this crazy world. And it's like, hey man, I really need you to like get back to me about this email that I sent a week ago. And then it's like, oh, what's that? No, that show doesn't exist. And you're like, fucking why, man? Like, and while waiting for that, I turned down this thing, and now this is gone, and now I got no money the whole weekend. Now it's like, god damn it, like, so that's tough. Yeah. But that would, I guess that wouldn't really happen if you were just an engineer and you came in 9 to 5 every day, no, I'd rather the dynamic life. That's a great question. I've never thought about that one. Hey, how about you?
Well, like I have an office job.
Yeah.
And like I want to do comedy full time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like I'm still far away from it. Like I'm still like I still have a lot of developing to do, just like on a base level, like as a stand-up.
Right.
But then I do, like I was talking to, like I talk to different friends. Some people, just any kind of self-employed person, and I'm like, am I one of them? You know?
Well, what do you have in common, or what seems appealing?
I guess I like when the accomplishment I feel around like my podcast, like when an episode of that is complete, there's so much ownership of it.
That's true.
Whereas like even if I do really well on something at work, it's part of something that I don't really think of as like having anything to do with me.
That's crazy.
I'm not like, oh, we released that new ETF. That would, you know, like.
Phew. Yeah, that's a fucking bummer. Yeah, you're totally right. And I hate to say, someone else probably got a big paycheck because of that ETF.
Oh yeah,
and you didn't really see it.
They're the ones who are the creatives on it and designed it, and I'm just doing this like little part of it that all the parts matter, but that's true. I like.
Holy crap! Yeah, but this is the Karen Mitches podcast, baby. There's no way this would have happened at all without you.
And
that's cool.
When I produce a show, I like, even though I'm only one person on it, even just the fact that I picked the other people on it, I'm just like, I picked the perfect people.
Yeah, look at this harvest I've reaped for you, everybody.
So I feel like in that sense, like, like the pride of the, like, running shit is amazing. But then it's like the uncertainty of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but particularly running a show, there's like 1,000 things that you got to do as the person that created it that nobody really thinks about, and you're like, oh man, and you know it though. You're like, all those parts came together. I did it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I need to start thanking people more when I'm on their shows.
Yes, because you know what they did.
It's so scary, like, just all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, you know the million hoops and stuff that they had to jump through. Oh man, yes, absolutely. Even this though, you know what I mean? Like, you had to fucking buy things. Like, I don't know what's going on. I literally just showed up.
I honestly, it's really hard. I was surprised.
It is, yeah.
Like, because everyone makes so much fun of podcasting.
Yeah.
Like, oh, everyone's
got a podcast.
But it's hard to figure out the mics and how to. You
and then
podcasted for a bit.
Yeah, but I didn't broadcast it, and I didn't record it. Like, I had nothing to do with this.
Okay.
So the MP3 file or whatever the hell comes out of this or whatever, I don't really know how that's even generated and where it goes and how it got to me. I edited it. So it was in a drive, I guess, that somebody sent to me, but I don't know how the hell it got from here to the drive. I don't know any of this. And thank God, because I
sounds
wouldn't
like you worked in radio. Like your voice
That's
is
a voice.
very...
Yeah. I also have the voice of like a talk show, like a game show host. That's what people say.
Yeah.
And which is good for like particularly hosting on open and open mic hosting and stuff. Like, come on down.
Can you tell me about the drums that you were playing at the daycare?
Well, I love playing the drums, but I don't like love it as much as, so like, even though I was like a professional drummer, I guess at some point, I'm not saying that I have what it takes, that other people in the city are like amazing at the drums that are like, so I'm not on that level at all. But
you were playing drums in a band.
Yeah, I was part of a band. This is how much money these folks had. My nanny takes my kid to a daycare center. Like, that's how detached the parents are. Like, and they're all gajillionaires. And I guess I'll just say, this place doesn't exist in Toronto anymore, but it was called Kidville. And it wasn't really a daycare. It was like a daycare kind of like institution. There's always like different rooms. And one of them was like the gymnasium room, I guess, where there's like a ball pit and I didn't work there. I worked on the Rock and Railroad, which is like some room that had like a band in it, like a keyboard and a guitar and a drum set. And your nanny takes your kid into this place and they learn, it's ages 0 to 5, and they learn about different instruments and different styles of music and different rhythms and stuff. So it's like, it would be like, well, it's Disney week on the Rock and Railroad. And I hate kids. I mean, I don't know if I can talk to these kids.
You seem like, if you told me you were a daycare worker, I would have been like
yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like I got a lot of like stepdad energy. I know. And so I don't know if I can talk to these things. I didn't have to. I was behind this drum kit, and all I had to do was fucking rock out. And so they'd be like, "It's Disney week, and this week's instrument is the tambourine. Everyone shake your tambourine." And then they'd be like, "Hey band, what's a rockin' Disney tune that we could shake our tambourines to?" And then I'd be like, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I would play like Under the Sea or something or whatever, which by the way is so fun on the drums.
Have you ever been compared to Animal from the Muppets?
Yeah, and you know what's crazy?
Does that bother you?
No, I love it, and in fact, I wish more people did it, because I tried to use it as an opening line, and a crowd was like, "Nah, we don't see it," or something. I was like, "Really?
Look again."
Yeah, are you crazy? Maybe not enough people know who Animal is, I guess, or I don't know, but yeah, I tried to use that as an opening line.
It wasn't a Muppets crowd.
Yeah, right.
Do you have like a stuffed
Muppet?
Yeah.
No.
Put them on your drum kit?
No, that would be wicked. I don't actually even own a drum kit, though. That's the other thing. It's in the city, man. We're like, where the hell would you put a drum kit in this house? Like, yeah. So that was another. That's actually kind of one pandemic regret a little bit, is that I should have like rented an electric kit and found room for it, I guess, in my little basement down at Dufferin and Bloor, because I would have gotten really good. I don't know, I would have played it all the time. There's literally nothing else to do instead of drinking whiskey and watching Bar Rescue every day.
I don't know, man. I think you got things out of Bar Rescue that were invaluable, and I think you spent your time well.
Yeah. Thank you. That's so appreciated.
I think the universe will send you something that allows you to explore your drums further.
Oh, I kind of hope so. So I was doing that gig until the pandemic, because it was very like, it was hard to do in an isolated way. There's babies running around and shit. It's like, so that company, they were like, all right, well.
I admire the people who put that together. Kidville?
The idea to have Kidville? Yeah, like, to have a live band.
Really cool.
It was great. I loved it. I had such a good time. And it was like, I'm an old man, and I was stuck in my little old ways of like music, and it just like, it got me involved. It would be like, it's Pop Week at the daycare center, and I'm like, Cheap Thrills by Sia. I've heard people talk about this song. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. So it like got me, and it kept me in the loop of like new music sometimes, and but I didn't, which I don't do now. So I loved it. I really liked it. There was also one thing about that job, is that it started really early, and so, but it was only like a couple of shifts. It was only like, so I'd work from like 9 to noon, and then you're out of the house at noon and ready to go, right? You're like, as opposed to like slowly getting up at 10 a.m. or whatever. Yeah, like whatever the hell is tempting to do now. But I liked that job. I was really bummed out that it didn't come back after the pandemic. That was like one thing I did pre-pandemic that is like absolutely just gone now.
Yeah,
which is a bummer.
That sucks.
Yeah, I tried. Like, the building is still there, and they still do daycare related things, but that program, the Rock and Railroad, doesn't exist anymore. Maybe we were blowing ears off of kids, and now they all have like
people didn't respect the Rock and Railroad enough.
Yeah. Oh my God. People liked it. It seemed to sell really well as like a program, but I don't think I was even really making that much money. Like I don't know. I don't know. I was just having fun playing the drums, and it just got me back there behind the drum kit every 3 times a week or whatever it was, and to make a little goofy paycheck. Playing the drums.
It'd be good to have something else that gets you drumming.
Yeah.
Right? And possibly pays you.
Yeah, in a creative way. I did go to. There's these jams at in Kingston Market, called Fam Jam, I think it is, where it's like anybody, they have like gear and anybody can just go up during the jam and you play for like 7 minutes and then you hand the drumsticks over to the next person or whatever. But this is what I mean about people that adore the drums. Everybody at Fam Jam is like amazing. I can't keep up with these guys. These guys are like way too good at the drums. And do you know that old Seth Rogen thing about he says I thought I wanted to be a boxer until I fought a guy that really wanted to be a boxer. That's kind of how I feel about the drums. I'm like, I'm not doing this. Like this guy lives back there. This is all he wants to do. But I'm sure people look at us like comedians and think that same thing. Yeah. What do you mean you're waiting 3 hours to get on stage for 5 minutes? Aren't you next? Can't you tell me when you're on? No, man, I don't know. This is what I want to do. I want to just get better at this.
There's a lot of funny people who couldn't really want to do it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a different, and all that is tough. And there's like an endurance to it and stuff, but you want to do it more than the other guy. So that's what gets you in front.
Do you think this scene, the Toronto comedy scene, has gotten better or worse post-pandemic?
It was amazing post-pandemic, and it's just now getting a little worse. I think the only reason I think that is because I think of an American influence of I don't know, maybe this is just places I'm going to as well. There's a lot, I'm seeing a lot of now people parachuting in, bombing and leaving, kind of like nobody's like, people aren't learning as much as they could by watching a show. Exactly what we were talking about half an hour ago about like repeat crowd work and like, don't you want to watch this?
Yeah.
Don't you want to be a comedian? And why is an hour and a half a long time to you?
Do you think it's something within like the podcasting community that they're telling everyone like how to do stand up and they're stressing this like grind it out, you got to do 20 mics a week?
No, that's always been the case. Yeah. I think, well, particularly Toronto is great because it's like if you do 20 mics a week, they're going to be pretty variant shows. You know what I mean? Like you'll do a club, a bar, a fucking weed lounge, not a lounge, but like I don't know. Do you ever do those like dispensary shows or whatever? Like there's
weed patio.
Yeah, patio shows. That's another thing. Like fucking outdoor shows. Like in a week, you're going to get a pretty wild spectrum of information. So you test out this 5 minutes here. If you did it, like one thing I noticed in New York, some people were literally just doing clubs. One time a guy in Queens was like, Marc, this show's a little weird. So this is a bar show. I don't know. You're from Canada. I don't know how often you do shows in bars. I was like, are you out of your fucking mind? Bars don't scare me at all. And then he went up and couldn't handle a bar at all and bombed. It was so funny to watch. And then he was like, see ya. I was like, you're not even gonna stick around and like learn how badly you did. Like, yeah. That's another thing is that if you leave, you don't really know that other people did well and then aspire to do that, or maybe you see that everybody bombed and you're like, okay, you kind of have to like temper your expectations and stuff. Like if you leave immediately, if you have no idea what's going on in this room, you don't even know what like a good joke sounds like. Like, you know what I mean? I've had it so many times. There was one show in Parkdale where I came off stage and I was like, woof, and everybody was just bummed. If you got like you're like, oh, fucking underline that. That's all they're given. And then Chris Locke walked in and fucking blew the doors off the place. And I was like, oh, this joke sucks. This joke's terrible. Obviously, they could laugh. Chris got them. So shouldn't we all be that good? We're trying. You know what I mean? Like, nah, these fucking people can't laugh. Really? I wonder if that happens like in New York. I don't know. I don't think Seinfeld's coming down and blowing the doors off this weird bar in Queens.
I would like to see Seinfeld try random shitty rooms.
Right? Do you think if he came to Groove, he would get them? You know what I mean?
I think it'd be funny at first because he'd be like out of out of
sorts. Yeah. Like, but it would also be nuts because the expectation would be crazy. Like, clearly we would all get off our phones and watch Seinfeld.
Yeah. I've actually heard stand-ups, like famous people say, like, once they got famous, it got hard to practice.
Yeah, because everyone's freaking out. And it's like, oh, shit.
Laughing at everything.
Can I just, like, tell this joke? Yeah, no, that must be really hard to navigate. And sometimes, like, I saw Craig Robinson in New York, and he didn't even try. Like, he was just, like, dicking around. He was having a good time, which is great. And then everybody left being like, that was the greatest show I've ever seen in my life. And I was like, he didn't actually really do anything good. like
he is really good.
He's
but
just a funny guy. Like, he was clearly a funny guy, but he didn't do, like, a good joke. Like, he didn't do anything good. It was cool to see him. It was, but that's what everybody wanted because they were just, like, blown away that it was him. You know what I mean? Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then I think he's probably resigned to that now. He's like, whatever, I'll just fucking do anything.
Show up and be myself.
Yeah, and I can just do whatever. I don't really need an act at this point. Like, everyone's I'm sure it's not necessarily fair to say that because I'm sure Craig Robinson has a wonderful act that is like, if he needed to fucking turn it on, he'd blow the doors off of any place. But like, it was funny to watch him do, like, honestly, also that was another thing, he did like 30 minutes. There was like no need. It was so late into the show, there was no need for him to do that. But he was just having fun. He like brought a lady up and twirled her and stuff. And like, it was like, what is this? Is this a show? And people walked outside of the building after the show and were like, that was the greatest comedy show I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, that can't be true. There's no way. God. You have to see better things. It's funny what you're talking about this Hannah show, that to go back to the beginning of, man, this was great. Like, so I saw somebody, or you were talking too about when you went to the Cellar and you saw like great act after great act after great act. Like, there's nights like that I feel that I've had in Toronto watching, like, that was an amazing show at like Laugh Sabbath or something. And it's like, holy shit. I wish, like, we should all kind of aspire to have shows like this. Why isn't everybody like killing it all the time?
Yeah. I think some of it has to be that being present in like...
Well, but also just back-to-back terrific acts and stuff. Like, those shows exist in Toronto, and it's cool to see. But I don't know. Like, it's also just, it's awesome that people have made it to the Cellar. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mean to like dismiss and dissuade what the hell happened there. Those guys are obviously fantastic comedians, all those people.
Yeah.
But it's also great that every now and again I see shows in Toronto that I'm like, when I was living down in New York too, it was exciting to come back to Toronto and be like, man, this is fucking better than anything I did in New York.
I think like our scene, it's really good. I'm really grateful for it. So as much as it's like fun to be like, oh my God, New York, it's amazing there, but there's so much here that
I would argue
you have to be proud of.
Getting funnier here than you could down there, just because again we have like the variety of shows and like the mix of everybody. Yeah, it's another cool thing. I was just talking to this this is from an improv point of view of this guy, because I work at Humber College now, and this guy really wants to be a writer, and he was like, looking at the list of people that are current writers for This Hour Is 22 Minutes, or past writers too. He was like, and I was like, oh yeah, that guy and this person, this is a great crew. He's like, where do you fucking see these people? I'm like, you could see these people tonight. What are you doing right now?
Oh yeah.
Let's go and see Adam Christie, who's a former head writer of This Hour Is 22 Minutes. You just see him every Friday. You can literally just walk into the comedy bar and see this guy, and he's like amazing. It's like such a fantastic comedian, and I don't really know how I got into this.
But people don't know what's in their town to like take advantage of.
I guess, yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, is that why I started bringing this up? Something about Toronto versus New York.
Oh, and developing here.
Yeah, getting funnier in other. Yeah, like that, to be able to just see. Yeah, that people are just around. Like, you know, somebody who writes for TV or who used to be the head writer of the show is just there, and we can just watch this person work for free.
Yeah. Amazing.
And it'll be like amazing. Yeah, that's such a cool thing to be able to just rub elbows with these people. Like, there's no hierarchy. You could just talk to Adam Christie. He's like the nicest guy. It's amazing. That's such a cool town.
So this is going to go on not this Thursday, but the next one. Okay. Is there anything you want to plug?
What is that, December 5th or something?
Yeah.
I always like plugging my album, Happy Pappy.
Yes.
And where
can we get your album?
If you want to buy it, you go to iTunes, and I get the most money that way.
So that's how big supporters should help you out.
Yeah, if you're willing to. But obviously, listen to Spotify or whatever, or like message SiriusXM and be like, keep playing this guy. We love this. I don't know, whatever it takes. I'm going to Vegas. Is there good money in SiriusXM?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing. They have really helped out financially to not just myself, but like hundreds of Canadian comics all over the place. My God, yeah. And
it's how people are able to keep going.
I think so. I don't know if you remember, like a few years ago, that there was like a SiriusXM switch over where they took off all the Canadian people and started playing American. There's like a channel called Canada Laughs that just plays, I think, Canadian albums. And then there was like a moment for like a week, they were like, we're gonna open this up to American albums now, like including like you would like a Rodney Dangerfield joke or something. Yeah. It's like Dangerfield's estate that gets the residuals. It's like, Dangerfield doesn't need you're like taking money away from comics, or Canadian comics that like absolutely depend on this stuff. And so that ended, thank God, in like a week. And so now we're back, and Canadian comics are making money again, as they should, and being played again exposure wise.
Amazing.
So that's dope or whatever. But I was gonna say, the December 20th and 21st, if you're in Las Vegas, I'll be at the Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club, which I'm excited that I just booked that. So I'll be featuring with somebody. I forgot their name, but they seem very entertaining as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, those are my big plugs.
Nice. Thank you so much for being on, Marc.
Thank you. I had a great 28th episode. 28th birthday. Yay.